Hey, it's me, Brooks. Welcome to Heal This. So, I recently went back and watched and listened to the last three episodes where I was talking about being an ex Mormon and all of the things that kind of go along with that, and also my interview with Shelley Roberts. And we talk a lot about our journeys and what kept coming up for me as I was reviewing those last episodes is intuition and how important it is. And I created a class about intuition. And so I teach a class about what is intuition and how can we listen to it more and how can we develop it because it is a muscle. And so I did want to share some of that with you today and talk about some of the other things that kind of came up as I was listening back. And intuition is something that everyone has. It is available to everyone. And the intuitive gifts that come with just every single person varies and can look a different way than mine does or someone else does, but you have them. They're there. It's just tuning in to what they are and how they work for you and what they look like. And so trying to understand that has been a very interesting journey, but I've always been very intuitive. It's just understanding that when messages come in, um, what they are, how to interpret them, how to translate them, because sometimes we might receive a word or a picture and it is a symbol of something else. And so just starting to learn all of that is something that takes a lot of time, actually. And it is, like any other practice, it is working that muscle and paying attention to the strengths and the weaknesses of your intuition. It's something that you have to practice and it's something you have to do on a very regular basis. And as you do it, it will get easier and you will actually be so intrigued by all of the things that you can understand and receive messages about. So to define your intuition, it's easier to start by defining what it's not, if that makes sense. Your intuition is not your logic, your mind, the way you're thinking about things. Your intuition is not your emotions, although emotions play a very huge part in deciphering answers for when you're asking questions to source. Using your intuition. So it gets confusing because I feel like intuition has been given lots of different names and even maybe the power that we have to receive messages has kind of been given away. And that is one of the things that really stood out to me when I was listening to those last couple of episodes, and that when you are in a situation and you feel like someone is taking power away from you and authority away from you, it's very difficult to be in tune with your intuition because you do not need anyone else. No one has the authority over you and your intuition and your relationship with a higher power. And really, that is one of the most important parts, I believe, of having a really strong intuition is understanding that you need to tune into the frequency of who you're receiving messages from. And in my opinion, for me, that is God. And I refer to God as source, being the source of all love and light, and the divine creator, the divine energy, right? And some of that kind of comes out as we talk about religious trauma and being told what God is and who God is and what God looks like. And because we have always, when we say we, most people, when we speak about a higher power, we say the word God. And for me, there was just a lot of negative connotations that come along with that word because of my journey through the religious trauma I've had. So I have renamed just in my mind and for me to have a better relationship with a higher power. I've renamed God Source. So you know that I call God Source. So I often think of grounding myself as being an anchor in the earth and really just knowing that our physical bodies are made up of carbon and hydrogen and oxygen and tons of water, which I wanted to talk about. And that's what the earth is, right? And so, and then our spiritual energy is made up of what I believe source is made up of. And we are connected through our spiritual energy. And so we will always be both. And so grounding is helping our physical body be in tune with the earth that was provided for us by source. And when we connect to source by just simply saying, can I come in and be in your presence? And that when we do that, we are aligning ourselves with the frequency of source. And so now we are grounded and we are tuned in to the frequency of source. So what is intuition? Intuition, I'm going to read a couple of things just so you know. The ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. A thing that one knows or considers likely from instinct, feeling, rather than conscious reasoning. So, intuition is the ability to acquire knowledge without resource to conscious reasoning or needing an explanation. It's a knowing, an understanding, a feeling, an instinct, a message from the universe, from source, from spirit, from angels. And there's a huge difference between your intuition and your conscious reasoning. The intuitive system is quick, impulsive, and operates with minimal effort, relying on emotions or habits to provide cues for what to do next, while the rational system is logical, analytical, deliberate, and methodical. As I said before, everyone has intuition, and your intuition is not just, when you get the goosebumps, right? Or this feeling of a knowing. It is sometimes pictures. It is sometimes a soft voice, but it is always a good feeling. It is not something, even when your intuition is telling you not to do something, it is still a feeling of good feeling, a positive feeling, a feeling of light. It is not a feeling of darkness. It is not a feeling of terror or intrepidation. So just starting to really cue in on what your intuition is, it will help you in your entire life through all of the things that you are doing, work and school and relationships and peace and just feeling good. It is a huge part. It is supposed to be a huge part of our life. And we are in a time when we are not listening. We are not going inward to self. We are taking in so much externally and not really listening to our intuition. Everything is energy. Everyone is energy. Everything is made up of atoms, right? And we are made of cells and molecules, and everything is vibrating. And energy is measured by vibration, and vibration is measured by frequency. And we have all of these senses, right? We see, we hear, we taste, we feel. I'm probably missing, we smell, and we have specific parts of our body that translate that energy, right? I can only see with my eyes, I can't see with my ears, and I can only hear with my ears, and I can only smell with my nose, and I can go on and on, right? Taste and feeling, we have all of these energy receptors throughout our whole body for feeling, and we can feel things vibrating in our body if it is a loud enough vibration. The other sense that we have is our intuition. And our intuition is translating energy that's coming in. And a lot of ways we are unable to explain how they are coming in to our mind, into our energy field. And we are translating that energy. And very specifically, the definition that I have landed on and that I want to share with you is that our intuition is the translation of vibration and or energy, providing us with a sure knowing. And if you have exercised your intuition, you will completely understand that when your intuition translates a message for you and you receive it, you know it. There is no doubt in your mind, and it is something you cannot explain, but it is a sure knowing. And so it is one of our senses. And unique to our senses, it is very much like a muscle in that we do have to practice it. And so a lot of times people will want to strengthen their intuition and not really understand how to do that. I believe that it begins with the intention, and the intention is not strengthening your intuition, because you have to remember that we are humans that have this logical mind that likes to interrupt us all the time. And if you focus on something that you do not have, you will always be focusing on the lack unconsciously. It is just the way we are made. But if you shift your focus with the idea that you would like to strengthen your intuition, but your intention is based in love and bringing more love and more light and more help and more peace to the earth and to others and to self. Okay. So if your intention is based in a place of wanting to help, wanting to bring more light and more love and peace and understanding to the earth, however that comes in, connecting to source, grounding to the earth, then what happens is you are not focusing on the lack. You are focusing on the actual bringing in more messages to translate. So it becomes a practice, right? It's like if you want to get really good at soccer and you're just not good at soccer at all, you would not have the intention of saying, I just want to get really good at soccer. It sounds funny, but your intention would be, I would like to improve and start to focus on just improving myself overall. okay, with the idea that I'm going to show up to practice and I'm going to start listening and I'm going to start watching and I'm going to start paying attention to techniques. And I'm going to every single day practice the techniques. I'm not going to just say, I'm going to get better at soccer, because it is a whole practice. And that is the same thing with strengthening your intuition. You can't just say that you would like to strengthen your intuition and not have the intention of bringing in more light and messages so that you can translate them, right? It's like you have to have the messages coming in. I have to be asking the questions with the intent that I would like to hear them, see them, know them, and translate that energy so that I can continue to go on that cycle. It just is something that is a practice. And I promise if you have the focus and the intention that you are just trying to bring more light in and more love, it totally changes the focus of the lack that you are feeling. One of the most important parts of practicing your intuition is recognizing your emotions. And this is why the emotion code has been so effective for me. And I love to share it with other people, because sometimes we have emotions stuck in our physical body and in our biofield that we are unaware of, honestly. And those emotions a lot of times erupt as anger. They show up as being, I just feel really angry or very frustrated. But if you think of that as being the top of the umbrella of emotions, but underneath the umbrella, there are a lot of other sub emotions that caused that emotional eruption to happen, then we can understand that, I feel like I'm not being heard. I feel like I am being judged. I feel like you're not listening to me and you're not trying to understand where I'm coming from, or I'm feeling rejected or betrayed. And then that's causing me to have some self-doubt. And yes, then it just shows up as being angry. So anyway, the emotions are important in the practice of intuition, because when you are really listening to your intuition, and this is something I'm doing on a daily basis, you have to decipher between your own emotions and someone else's emotions. And if you are extremely empathic, which I believe that most people and definitely animals and our earth, plants, water, they are absorbing and they are feeling. They might not feel them the same way we do, but they are definitely translating that energy and sometimes absorbing. And we as humans are constantly absorbing other people's emotions. It's just part of who we are. And I really want to recognize that, because that can change your whole day. And if you start to really listen, you will be able to see, almost like on a conveyor belt coming towards you. Oh, these are my emotions. Oh, this is someone else's emotions. Oh, this is the whole restaurant is feeling, high intense, whatever. Like, you'll start to feel it and see it and be able to kind of section it off. Or, I'm feeling this right now. Okay, let's just feel it for a little while. It doesn't need to get stuck. So emotions play a huge part in our practice of intuition and translating energy, because sometimes the energy that you are translating for your intuition, for the purpose of a sure knowing, is an emotion. It is an actual emotion that is coming towards you, a feeling, especially people who have that as one of their intuitive gifts, which is the clairsentient. And that, so, there's all these clairvoyancies that people have. And I wasn't going to get there yet, but anyway, some people, they're very empathic. They receive feelings as part of their intuition, like their intuition muscle, and that is how they translate energy. So emotions have been, this is something that I was shown quite a while ago, the flow like water. I also have had other people give me the message of being a windsock. And if you go to the airport and you see they have like a wind, it's a sock that has both ends are opened and the wind flows through it, and they use it to measure which direction the wind is flowing as just a visual guide. And you can think of your body as being the conduit, right, of these emotions. I cannot grab a hold of emotions. They are not physically tangible, but yes, they are tangible sometimes, right? You can actually feel other people's feelings. But your emotions should come in and feel them. What are they trying to teach you? What are they trying to show you? And then flow out. And for me, that lesson was the flow like water. A lot of times things will hit you on the left side of your body because they're new or present in this life, or have a feminine attribute to them. Since this left side of your body is the feminine side of your body, everything is made up of yin and yang, opposites, two sides of the same coin. You get the point. The right side of the body is the let go side of the body. It's the masculine side of the body. It is when you are done processing it, but haven't let it go yet. So you might actually feel something come in through the left side of your shoulder, which might not be normal for you since you're right hand dominant, or the left side of your hip, right, causes you to be completely out of balance. Your body's processing it. You're processing it. After you've processed it, sometimes that takes moments. Sometimes that takes days, weeks, years. Let's not go into the years. We gotta, we don't want to get stuck. I understand processing comes in levels too. It's not just a one-time thing. But as it shifts, you might feel it go, out your actual right hand or your right arm, or you might feel it go out your right feet or up through the right side of your neck, which is the let go process. Some people have a very hard time letting go of things, and they'll sit on the right side for a really long time. If someone has a really large block on the left side of their body, then they are literally blocking what is trying to come in, because they're having a really hard time. They're very stuck processing things on the, it'll land on the left side of their body, and it will cause them to feel really confused. Like, I just don't understand how to process this. So emotions play a huge part in our intuition. In fact, I think they go hand in hand. Our emotions we're given emotions to then translate our intuition. We are not built to just run on instinct, right? Like something in nature has just instinct, but intuition has the ability we have the ability to know things about not only ourselves, our planet, but for others too. And obviously, this is something that we can use to protect ourselves, but also to help others, because that's what I think we're supposed to do. Is, we're all here together, so we're supposed to be working together to help our fellow humans do better, be better, level up. So our emotions play a huge part. Our thoughts are something that we have to definitely be in tune with, because our thoughts are running through our brain. So our brains are not our thoughts. And thoughts have usually been running, they're running on autopilot basically a lot of times. And so we have to first of all, be aware of what our thoughts are. Whoa, what a concept. And I remember hearing this a long time ago. And when I heard it, I thought right away, oh, yeah, I totally understand that there are times when I'm thinking and I didn't even know I was thinking. I wasn't consciously trying to create a thought. A lot of times, what we don't put together is that our thoughts have come from somewhere else, like a belief system or our parents or from school or an article we read or a TV show we watched, right? Our thoughts create emotions. Our emotions are then set to specific thoughts that we have. So there are different parts of our whole entire makeup that we have to really be aware of. So self-awareness, like we talked about with Shelley Roberts, and what are we thinking? What are we feeling? And is any of this our intuition? It's a gauge for our intuition. And along with all of that is discernment. And where are we on the line of discernment? Because we all know that we all have different perspectives, we have different opinions, we are on different sides of things. And for me, I am always just coming to the core belief that we all begin as spiritual beings and now are having a human existence and a human experience. And if I can just start right there and say, how can I help you? How can I help this person or this collective or this earth? How can I help myself? Not thinking about, the parts that make us different. Because what's so interesting to me is that we are 99.9% the same. And yet we focus so much on all of our differences. And yet it is the differences that make us so unique. And so there has to be a balance there. There has to be a really positive way of light of looking at our differences and our uniqueness. Everything I am saying, everything that has been said before. But what makes something different is my unique story, your unique story. And that's what sets it apart. And so we are supposed to tell our story. We're supposed to talk about our healing journey and how you're supposed to do this in some way, shape, or form. Might be really small, but it's going to have some kind of an impact in someone's life. I know it, because that's why we're here together, is to help each other. Sorry, I was talking about discernment. Discernment is the ability to judge well. But see, if I say that, there are specific people that I think, well, they are thinking that they have really great discernment. I don't think the same thing as them. But is that because that works for them and it doesn't work for me? Because we are unique and we are different, but I don't want to have any judgment towards them. As long as you're not hurting someone else, or taking away someone else's power, which is abuse, then I think that you're great. Go for it. But as soon as you cross that line and you are taking away someone else's power, which is abuse, then you are hurting someone. And I'm not okay with that. So this all comes back to discernment, right? An understanding that you have the ability to judge well. But more importantly is trust. Trust is knowing you can rely on yourself, knowing you are held without expectations. Trust is, this is a hard one for a lot of people. If you're having a really hard time trusting others, then you really need to start working on trusting yourself. And a lot of people will say things like, well, I thought I was listening to my intuition, but sometimes we're really not listening with our intuition. We're listening with the idea that, we're really attracted to this person maybe. And so we're putting aside our intuition. We're not really listening. We're thinking, ooh, I really want to like be with this person because I'm really attracted to them. Or, this job sounds super fancy, or, like I really want this job. But if I listened intuitively, I would hear it's not the best path for you. But here's the thing. This is where we go off into like a little bird walk and we say, you know, are there any really wrong answers? It's all just a different path, and they all lead back to it's going to show up again. What's yours is always yours. You are going to have the chance to make a different decision at some point. And, hopefully that's in this life. If that's what you're trying to achieve something and it doesn't happen this time. Okay. So then now you've made a decision and it didn't really take you down the path that you thought it would. But what did you learn from that situation? Because sometimes in order to get to the place that we want to get to, we take a detour. We learn some things about ourselves that prepare us for the thing that we're calling in later. And we think of it as being like, oh, our plan got hijacked somehow, or I just can't trust my intuition. But maybe you needed to go on that journey to then learn these things about yourself, to then level up because you were wanting to call in a higher frequency. And in order to call in a higher frequency, you had to go through that trial or that, experience that now has you having more self-love or more compassion or more understanding about your emotions, or, releasing some trauma that you had. And then now you're ready to continue onto that path that you were trying to call in before, right? It's like it gets so complicated and we want to figure it out in a way that's logical, and it's not always logical. And having grace for yourself, because we think we have to look like other people or do it the way someone else did. And that was another thing that came up when I was listening back, is that, I really struggle, and I was struggling with this idea that being in a religion, I am being asked to be like everyone else. And I didn't feel like everyone else. And there were things happening in my life that weren't like everyone else. And so it became this huge discord in my life where I just did not feel like it was supposed to be happening the way that it was. But I also felt more connected to God, more connected to source and spirit, and this feeling of peace and goodness than I had ever felt before. So intuition is definitely something that has played a huge part in my life. And as I was in a religion where my intuition was being told it was not right, it was not correct, that I needed to be listening to priesthood holders and that they held authority for me to be connecting to God and me to be trying to achieve this other celestial plane after I die. And yet that doesn't matter if I'm feeling miserable in this life. As long as I do these things and check off these boxes, then, and go through the correct authority. You are your own authority. You have the ability to speak to God every single day, all the time. You do not need someone else to be that for you. And once I realized that and took the reins back of my life, things started to flow so much faster and better and clearer and with deeper understanding and with more love and peace. And I felt myself physically changing into who I felt like I was supposed to be more. Does that make sense? So I've talked about a lot of things. Part of being I talk about being your true authentic self. Well, part of being your true authentic self is really listening to your intuition and tuning into the authentic part of who you are and your intuitive self, and being that self unapologetically. And I say that, and I mean it in a way that, of course, I don't want you to hurt yourself or anyone else. But to do it in a way that we innately are as spiritual beings, and that is light and happy and joy and childlike and fun, and also, deeply intellectual and filled with so much knowledge that we have not accessed it all. It's waiting for us without judgment. And of course, that is another part of what I was really feeling, is that I was feeling so judged that, I was having all of these intuitive hits. I was having all of these messages coming to me, and I was seeing spirit. And I say that and people are like, what does that mean? I was seeing ghosts, right? They were coming to me with messages, and I was receiving so many messages that I needed to do something different, that it got to a point where I could not listen to them anymore. And I felt that they were all very divine, and that God had me, and that it would be fine, and that it would be okay, and that it was not necessarily going to be easy, but that it would be with ease, that I would be able to transition into this life that I'm in now. And it has, because I completely trust God. And I tell people in my office all the time, when you have trust for a higher power, that does not mean it comes with conditions. You trust, and you are open to receive that source knows best for you. And a lot of times when you receive something because you were asking maybe for something else, and then you sit in that energy and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much better than I ever thought it could be. That is because source knew what you needed. And we cannot think that way all the time unless we are listening intuitively. And then when we can do that, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's mind blowing. And everything we have all of a sudden becomes enough. And when we have enough, it will multiply very quickly. So, intentions. Think about your intentions. Be more self aware. Listen to your thoughts. Listen to your emotions. Practice your intuition. Go with the knowing, not the no. When something comes in, like, ooh, I should really call so and so, or you have a thought about something that you're like, that's interesting. Pay attention to it. These are intuitive hits. If you see something in your mind's eye that looks like a memory or a playback or a comic strip, and it is about someone or about something or about yourself, right? Like, I've had people say things like, I was driving and I had this thought come into my mind, but it doesn't just come in as a thought, it comes in as a picture that something was going to jump out at me. And so I moved over, even though that didn't make any sense logically. And as I did that, something actually jumped into the street in front of me. That is an intuitive hit. So start paying attention to the things that are coming in and go with the knowing. Those things are there to give you a sure knowing, right? It's not just something you're seeing with your eyes or hearing with your ears or tasting or smelling. This is something that you were created to use as one of your senses. And if we could all tune in to that a little more and start paying attention to how it resonates in our body and what it feels like, what our thoughts are, and all of that going around it, connecting to source, grounding every day, paying attention to what we are feeling. You know, we have this biofield that is 3 feet outside of our body as a sphere. It has receptors on the end, on the outside of it, kind of on the longitude and latitude, kind of an idea, just to give you an idea. But these are our chakras. These are our senses that are going out that far. If we start paying attention more, being more aware with the intention that we want to bring more light and peace and love into the earth, I think we will see a humongous difference. You will see a huge difference in your own life, but as a collective, we will see a way bigger difference. There will be more light. There will be more love and peace. And I just want to encourage you to listen to your intuition more. If you're in a space where you are being, your intuition is being stuffed down and you are not listening, this is a time for you to make a plan and figure out how to listen to your intuition more. Just take some time and space away from whatever is holding you down and make a plan to change that. Because I believe we are not here to be stuffed down. Our intuition, our true authentic part of who we authentically are, our true authentic self, is meant to be vibrating at a very high frequency and listening and receiving messages from source and the divine beings on the other side. So I hope some of this was helpful for you. This is all with the purpose to help you heal and to move forward and to level up. And as a collective, I really want to focus on spiraling up, being good to each other, practice your practice, and heal this.